What if I told you that one of the most iconic fancy cakes in America started out as a marketing stunt? Yeah, that rich, dramatic, deep red velvet cake you see today. It wasn't always that bold, that bright, or that Instagram famous.
I'm rich, biatch!
As a matter of fact, it wasn't even really red. Red velvet cake, the only dessert that if it was any other color, people would lose interest.
I'm not sure I'm interested in that. No, I am sure. I am not interested in that.
This is homemade versus bakery. Red velvet cake. But what is red velvet cake? Is it chocolate, vanilla, or is it a conspiracy pushed by food coloring companies to push more food paint?
I don't know.
Today, we're putting homemade red velvet head to head against bakery red velvet to find out which one actually deserves the crown. Now, the history of red velvet goes way back to the 1900s when bakers discovered that cocoa powder mixed with acidic ingredients like buttermilk and vinegar created a smoother, velvety texture. And fancy people loved it because apparently calling something moist chocolate cake wasn't classy enough.
That is the least fancy thing I have ever heard.
The bright red color didn't really explode until the Great Depression, when a Texas hotel made it famous, and food coloring companies said, wait, is somebody coloring cakes now? We need in on this one.
God, okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
And somehow, over the years, red velvet became the unofficial cake for birthdays, weddings, Valentine's Day, and every bakery that wanted to add a splash of color to the dessert cases. So today, we're testing two versions. A homemade red velvet cake made from scratch versus a bakery red velvet cake made by professionals who could probably charge extra for the cream cheese frosting swirl.
Shut up and take my money.
And in the end, we'll score both cakes from 1 to 5 in 4 categories: appearance, taste, texture, and cost, to see which velvet cake actually comes out on top. Will homemade taste richer and fresher? Will the bakery version have that perfect soft texture? Or will both taste like chocolate cake wearing a red Halloween costume? Let's head to the kitchen and find out. All right, we're about to get started in making this red velvet cake. Now, we've got our cake ingredients here on our left and our cream cheese icing. We're going to mix up the cake first, get it in the oven, then we'll make the cream cheese icing, put it together. You all know the drill. We'll get in there. Starting on this episode, we're going to have a scoring system where we will score the cakes against each other on a 1 through 5 scale on 4 different categories: appearance, taste, texture, and cost. We'll tally up those scores, and then we will have an official winner based on scoring, not just my opinion. So let's get started mixing this cake up, and we'll get it in the oven. The concept of a velvet cake dates back to the Victorian era, when bakers sought to create cakes with soft, fine crumb to contrast with denser pound cakes. Cocoa powder was added to flour to soften the texture, producing a smoother, velvety cake. Early versions, such as mahogany cake and devil foods cake, often had a reddish-brown hue due to the chemical reaction between cocoa and acidic ingredients like vinegar or buttermilk, as well as the use of brown sugar, sometimes called red sugar. By the 1920s, red velvet cake became associated with the southern United States, where it was served at family gatherings and social events. The cake was also featured at New York City's Waldorf Astoria Hotel, where it gained fame as a luxurious dessert for high society clientele. Early recipes relied on natural ingredients like beet juice to enhance the red color, which also contributed moisture to the cake. In the 1930s and 1940s, the development of artificial food dyes transformed red velvet cake. John A. Adams of the Adams Extract Company created a recipe using red food coloring to intensify the cake's hue after sampling the Waldorf Astoria version. This innovation coincided with World War II rationing. Alright guys, we've got these two cakes ready to go in the oven. We're going to cook them at 350 for 25 to 35 minutes. They'll be done when a toothpick comes out of the center clean, and then we'll get to build this cake. In the meantime, we're going to make the cream cheese frosting. So we'll have it ready to go on this cake once it cools off. Which limited cocoa, butter, and vanilla, making the brightly colored cake a marketing success. The Adams recipe helped popularize red velvet cake nationwide. Red velvet cake experienced fluctuating popularity over the decades. It declined in the 1970s due to concerns over red dye number 2. But resurged in the late 20th century, aided by gourmet bakeries and media exposure. Alright, the cake's out of the oven. It looks pretty good. Nice dark red. We got our cream cheese icing here. We're going to take these out of the pan and let them cool on a wire rack. Once it's completely cool, then we'll ice, decorate, and then go in there and taste test it. Well, there she blows. That's the completed red velvet cake, homemade from scratch. The only thing to do now is to head in there, get the bakery one, cut a slice of this, and do our comparison and our scoring. So let's head in there and get started. But first, check out this reveal. The verdict. Now it's time to calculate the final scores on these two cakes. On my left is the bakery bot. Now they made it really easy on me by not putting their best foot forward on making this cake. It's kind of falling apart. And on mine, I only did 2 layers on mine. But with that in mind, we will discuss category 1, which is appearance. So first up, the appearance. The homemade version looks really nice. It's got the crumbles on the outside, a nice thin layer of the cream cheese icing in the center. The cake, the color is really dark red. It turned out really well considering didn't really know what I was doing when I was adding the food color. Now, as far as appearance on the bakery one, as I said, they didn't do a very good job. So this one easily will go to the homemade, where I will say, I'll give mine a 3. And the reason I'm giving it a 3 is because traditional red velvet cakes are multi-layer, like this one here. But this thing looks like somebody's worst nightmare, and I'm gonna give it a 1 on appearance because it looks terrible. As far as the color on the icing on the homemade is very white, very, very bright white. And over here on the bakery one, it's more of a cream cheesy color with that hint of yellow to it. Category 2, we're going to discuss the texture of these. We'll start with the bakery one. Red velvet is supposed to be soft, smooth, and velvety, not crumbly drywall mud with cream cheese icing, which is exactly what this bakery version is. I'm telling you, the store that made this cake just kind of phoned it in. The texture is hard. It's almost crunchy on the outside. The cream cheese looks all right as far as texture goes. Now let's talk about the homemade. This cake is very delicate, very soft. It looks moist. We'll discuss this cream cheese icing. Although it's very appealing looking, it's very white, so it doesn't give off cream cheese. For texture on the bakery one, also I'm going to give it a 2 because the texture is really bad. It's really dried out. It's not fun to eat at all. Then you add that taste into it and it just really goes way off. And for the texture on mine, I'm going to say it could be better. It could be more moist. Let's give it a 3. Taste. Now this is the category that actually matters because nobody's sitting around saying, man, that cake looked incredible while eating a dry sponge with frosting glue. The homemade cake, as I said earlier, it's very delicate, very soft, but let's see how it tastes. Get a little bit of this cream cheese icing. Boy, that tastes like a red velvet cake. It's really good. I think it actually works well with the sweeter cream cheese because the cake is very, very subtle. Very, it's got a nice cocoa flavor, but it's not super sweet. So you get that that chocolate, and then you get that punch of sweetness in that cream cheese icing. That's really good, and that's a pleasure to eat. It really is. It's the cake is really good and moist. But let's try this nightmare over here. I don't even want to. I wish Piper could eat chocolate. Man, that tastes like somebody made it out of crayons. That is terrible. That cream cheese icing tastes like put a bottle of bleach in it. And that cake is dry as the Sahara Desert. I'm gonna give the bakery one a 1. That is terrible. And mine, it's a really good cake. So I'm gonna make it hard to score anything a 5, to be honest with you. I mean, it's gonna have to be out of this world. Now the German chocolate cake, 4.5. That thing was good. This, I'm just gonna go with a 4 on it. The final category is cost. For a whole red velvet cake at Publix Bakery, you're probably gonna pay anywhere from $15 to $18 for a whole cake. I'll tell you right now, it probably cost, I would say, roughly $6 to make this cake from scratch. So on this one, it breaks down to, I paid $3 for the cream cheese. It took a stick and a half of butter. I'd say that's probably $1.50. We used a whole thing of food coloring gel at about $3. So that's put us at 8 already. Then we take all the other ingredients and estimate $4. So that is $12. So $12 on homemade. I was a little off. And let's say 18 for the whole cake on the bakery. You're gonna save $6 by making it yourself. But I promise you, if you're talking about what we're comparing here, that is every bit as worth it to have a whole cake that tastes as good as this does. I would say the cost for the bakery one is high, so we'll give it a 3. Cost on mine is kind of high, so we'll give it a 3 as well. So the final score, bakery is 7, homemade is 14. So the winner by the score, homemade wins again, takes home the crown. You guys let me know what you think of the scoring system, and if there's anything that you would change, drop it in the comments below. and we will continue on the next video. We're gonna do carrot cake. You gotta eat your vegetables. Thanks for coming along. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. That's all we have for now, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Tell them bye, Piper.
Bye. See ya.